Greetings, greetings, greetings. You are now tuned into the vault. Trust Christian own, not to control everything. Just want to thank you for tuning in live, listening to replay. Always appreciate everybody that tunes in live, listens in the replay. It's always a blessing, always a pleasure. Definitely excited about that. Today we're going to be doing our episode 281, Your Name Trust. It's a very simple title, very simple episode. Quite a few people have contacted us and reached out for years looking for this type of conversation. People actually contact all the time for consultations about this particular subject. So definitely wanted to do this episode. This is the Vault episode 281, Your Name Trust. Thank you for tuning in live, listen, replay. Feel free to type into the chat. Feel free to type into the chat where you're listening live or listening to replay from. I always appreciate everybody that does that. So just feel free to type into the chat, where you're listening live or listening to replay from. Today's episode is 281, Your Name Trust. This is interesting, conversation that we're having here today because so many people contact the vault and they hear Trust Christian say, Trust Christian, own nothing, control everything. But then we have these groups of people that will reach out and they will say, oh, I got my trust started. And they keep talking about the trust and the possessive, which is own nothing, control everything. They keep saying that they own the trust. They'll say my trust, my this, my that. And we see that once again, how are you private if that's the case? You're putting yourself in a position where people see that it's your name. And we get trustees that come through all the time and talk about family trust, and they're like, well, should I put my family name on the trust and things of that nature? And it's like, ladies and gentlemen, there are quite a few people in our sector that do not have their names on the actual entity, and they won't do that for extended periods of time, and they definitely don't do it just for the simple fact that it's own nothing, control everything. If somebody knows you got something and your name's on it, they're going to sue it. They're going to sue you. Bottom line. So if you have your name as the trust, because we get people that contact us all the time from these fringe groups, from, the Moorish movement or whatever. Someone reached out recently, said they think they're going to learn private trust over the internet. It's like, dude, don't worry about it. We already know how business is. The internet has spoiled people with useless information. Okay? We talking about the private sector, and somebody gonna reach out and say, well, I don't think I should have to pay for private information. Ladies and gentlemen, keep getting a free education. It's free. It's public. We're talking about the private. And in the private sector, you got to invest in your private education. And your private education will let you and your family know that your name traditionally should not be involved in the trust, especially in the early years with the trust, just because most people don't know how to handle their name on the trust. When you're going in, when you're a trustee and your name is the trust, a lot of times a lot of people are going to think that you own the trust. They're going to think that you created the trust, and for that reason, that doesn't mean that it's private. It means that it's public. A lot of people are going to sit in front of you and say, who created the trust? Is your name on it, right? Right. So in trustee training, we encourage our trustees and we work with our trustees to know that that's not an initial step that should be taken. Having your name on the trust, having your name as the trust. Whereas we get people contacts all the time and say, well, yeah, I want to create the trust. I got my name inside of a trust. Well, when we ask them that, usually we ask them, well, who created the trust? That's one question that we see trustees or people that contact us for consultations be they're weirded out by sometimes, because they're not aware of the fact that if they have their name on there, when you go out into the outside world, it's not private anymore now. People think that it's yours. When you hear of the Rockefeller Trust, the first Rockefeller definitely did not utilize the initial trust that they were doing business out of or otherwise through the Rockefeller Trust. That was something that was a little bit more standoffish, because why? Ladies and gentlemen, Rockefeller got actually they did an investigation on Rockefeller because he was creating a monopoly. It was the same thing with Google. When Google is owned by Alphabet A. Alphabet A is the trust. Google is the LLC. So when you see Alphabet A out there buying up companies, buying up Yahoo, I mean buying up, excuse me, not Yahoo, definitely wasn't accurate. Buying up YouTube, buying up other platforms, and they're not Google, but they're Alphabet A. You can see how by not having your name on the entity, it can get around anti-competitive laws. Having your name on something just exposes you. It exposes your position that you're in trust. Now you got X, Y, and Z trust. Your name trust. How does that show that you're in privacy? So how is operating through the trust that has your name or your family name to a degree? And some trustees can get away with it depending on how sophisticated they are, how well groomed they are as trustees to move forward, where it might have the family name on a trust. At the same time, they're able to operate strictly as a trustee. They communicate with everyone as a trustee. So when people come and say, "Oh, this is your trust," they actually respond in a proper manner, which lets people know that they are there as the trustee and they're not there as the owner. When people see your name on the trust, they think you created the trust. That's what happens. It's a resounding happens. And so we just wanted to cover that today because so many people come to the vault and they say, okay, I got my trust set up and I put my birth certificate in it. I got my trust set up and I got the government. I took control over my government trust, the constructive trust, the Cesta KQ trust. Ladies and gentlemen, we've heard it all. I got the government trust in my control trust, Christian, because the government created a trust for me called the Social Security number. So I'm in control of it. Oh, really? I'm in control of my all capitals name trust, Christian, and it's a trust. Okay, are you the beneficiary? Yeah. Are you the trustee? Yeah. Are you the sole trustee and sole beneficiary? Yeah. Then it's called the doctrine of merger. You can Google that. I'm sure the Fringe group leader, Grand Shiki, he didn't give you that information, right? She didn't give you that information, right? They want to help you escape the system of public, but they didn't tell you how to properly prepare yourself when you're in the private. When you're in the private, you don't expose your position and put your name saying that you have a trust. That's a fact. Did the Fringe group individuals tell you that there's a difference between public and private trust? Most of the time they don't, because they don't know. They don't know the proprietary methods that the vault uses. Your name trust puts you in a position where when you walk in the bank, they think it's your trust. Who's the grantor? Who's the beneficiary? Your name trust, did it say you were the grantor? Did it say you were the beneficiary? Did it even say your kids were the beneficiary? If it's own enough to control everything, why would you put your children in a position where they're taxable? Now you hear why Warren Buffett and other wealthy people say, I'm not going to give money directly to my kids. Because it makes them taxable. So your name trust, most of the time is looked at on the public side. Is this yours? It's looked at as a alter ego. When you have your name on it, it looks like an alter ego. We had a trustee come to us one time recently in a consultation, and they said, trust Christian X, Y, and Z, X, Y, and Z. They said they were going through a definition that the IRS had or something like that, and they said, but it says control and enjoyment. And we told them, ladies and gentlemen, as a trustee, you're not in business of enjoyment. You're in the business of control. Trust Christian, own nothing, control everything. You do control it, but you don't enjoy it. This is counter to the public mindset. It's private. You don't enjoy what the trust is doing. Why? Because then that means that it's for your benefit. The enjoyment is supposed to be for the benefit of the beneficiaries. But oh, trust Christian, I could be the beneficiary with one of my kids and still be the trustee. Okay, so you're the beneficiary, you're the trustee. Who created the trust? You the grantor too? It sounds like an alter ego. Go do your research. You being in all of those positions does not show that you're in a position of adverse party. The trust doesn't show, you don't show that the trust is a separate, distinct legal entity. Trusts can be separate, distinct legal entities. Trusts can be separate, distinct legal entities. Just like corporations can be separate, distinct legal entities. But how many of your accountants or your lawyers told you to separate your assets from your name? Get things out of your name. That's what happened. So we get people that come to the vault all the time and they say, okay, Trust Christian, I'm taking control of the government trust. This is the type of conversation we get in consultations. People contact us all the time, ladies and gentlemen. They contact us saying, oh, well, the government has this trust. It's called the Sestakay Trust, Sestakay V Trust. People look up this. Oh, well, they have a constructed trust. Okay, and then you get these guys and these women and men, whoever, they say, oh, I want to get in control of that trust. First of all, who created the trust? Who created it? Did you create it? Nah, Trust Christian, it was created for me. The government created a trust for me. Okay, so did they create it for your benefit and your enjoyment? Or did they create it for you to be a trustee and learn how to properly deal with the financial matters and you be a financial fiduciary and make sure that you're handling the accounting properly? Most people have not separated themselves from their assets. They think that the trust is their asset. Oh, well, and this just goes into entitlement mentality. The government wanted you to think that you had an entitlement. It's called Social Security. No wonder you're entitled. No wonder you have your name trust, because you're entitled. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, y'all can feel free to type into the chat. Y'all really can feel free to type into the chat. Y'all can keep it on this conversation about the trust. I definitely have no problem, because this is just a way to get around a consultation. A bunch of people always contact the vault about, oh, I just got into this information about controlling my straw man. I just got into this information about separate myself from the social security number, separate myself from the your name trust, government trust that was set up for me by the government. Okay, and what are you going to do about that? Are you going to separate yourself, or are you going to go back in the system and say, well, you know what, the system owes me, so I'm going to go in and I'm going to act like I'm a trustee? Well, you have no formal or even alternative private trustee training to know the difference between a private trust contract and the government, which is a public trust contract. If the government creates the contract for you, you're probably not in the most superior position, even as the trustee or even as the beneficiary. Why do you think the beneficiaries of the Social Security, your name trust, have to deal with taxes? Clearly, because they don't know how to deal with the liabilities. They don't know how to deal with assets. Someone asked a question about how is a foreign citizen trust different from other trusts. Jurisdiction. Somebody asked about that. We could go even deeper today, because it's not just even about the jurisdiction. It's about the law that was utilized that the trust is to adhere to. Once again, when you come into the private sector, there is private contract rights which are not to be abridged by the government. So your name trust that was given, whether you want to say it was given to you or not by the government, okay, you still are what? Are you in a position of control, or are you in a position of liability? Because as a trustee, you're not in a position of liability. The trust is the asset, the trust is the liability. You're the trustee. Are you familiar of companies that go under? Can a trust go bankrupt? Yes. Can a company go bankrupt? Yes. Can your name trust go bankrupt? Yes. On the public side, they have Chapter 11, 7, and 13. Of course, your name trust can go bankrupt. Well, Trust Christian, the system is bankrupt. And, once again, we're in a position as trustees to grow assets in a pandemic or otherwise. That's our job. Our job is to grow assets. It's to not be a liability to the trust. Appreciate Mississippi for tuning in live, listening to replay. Shout out to Mississippi. Feel free to type into the chat where you're listening live from or listening to replay. Always appreciate everybody for tuning in live, listening to replay from Mississippi. Type it into the chat. Got quite a few questions coming through. Feel free to you all to keep typing them into the chat. She says, "Is that the only type of trust you're showing in your academy?" So in our trustee training program is definitely catered towards private trust contracts. You can go get a public contract from a lawyer. Ladies and gentlemen, when you guys come into the private sector, you'll see that you won't be able to get what we train people in the private sector in the public. Because if that was the case, then you would just be able to go to a public lawyer and go get it done. They won't do it the way that we do it because it's private. It's intellectual property. It's private, ladies and gentlemen. Just like lawyers on the public side have their processes and things of getting done, so does the private. Remember, on the public, the lawyers are on the public side, unless you can run into a private lawyer. So our program is very unique in the respect that we are private trustees, and that's the advantage that we come from. We come from the private sector. Whereas when you're dealing with a public lawyer on the public side, you're dealing with a public thought process and a public trust. Usually on the public side, they're only going to set you up with public. They're not going to go private because it's a conflict of interest for them. That's why we even talk about that when it comes to banking. We have a bunch of trustees talk about that, whether it's good to have a public or a private trust. And when you go into the bank, it's always going to be an issue when you go with a private trust. It's just that's what they're looking at. They're looking to see if this is public or private. Ladies and gentlemen, it's hard to track private. You know how many times people come to us and the banker says, "Oh, well, is your trust registered in this state?" You know how many people come to us talking about trying to get loans and stuff right now? "Oh, well, what state is the trust registered in?" In the private sector, it's not registered in the public. Your name trust is registered in the public. Somebody asked, do we have a website? We work off referrals, so we don't. The website, we're actually working on the website. We're going to do get some stuff going back up, but the YouTube is sufficient. The lessons are sufficient. We've conducted ourselves throughout the years where we have no negative dirt on our name at the vault, and so with websites and stuff, you got to maintain all of that type of stuff. At the vault, we're focused on keeping it private, doing training programs, and keeping it moving. If people want to take that risk and invest in their private education, great. If they don't, great. It's no big deal. We're not begging for people to go private. People is one individual emailed us recently, said, "Oh, Trust Christian, you're accepting Federal Reserve notes." Ladies and gentlemen, what do you mean? What do you mean? Do you accept Federal Reserve notes? You didn't rebut it and say, are you accepting gold or silver? Somebody wants to reach out and say, "Oh, Trust Christian, it sounds like you know something that I don't know. Can I get it for free? How about you go to the liquor store? How about you go try to go get alcohol for free?" It don't work that way. And that's way more wasteful than what we're offering at the vault. So, no, it's not free. If you want to get in contact with the vault, it's christian@trustchristian.com. Once again, it's christian@trustchristian.com. And I definitely recommend everybody listen to a lot of the lessons before you guys go through the program. It's not a deterrent. It's just a lot of people, they just come on consultations and then they ask, they feel like they have a good outset understanding of trusteeship because they've gone with their Fringe group. And we've had trustees come through and their mind just gets blown all the time. They always say, "Man, I never heard any of this." And it's like, well, you got to understand, we have a private education. It's the private sector. It's not the public sector. We're not in the Fringe groups recording our trainings in the public. We have private workshops. We don't have public, "Oh, let us share with the world what we're doing." Do you think other cultures or cultures in general don't have private trust training workshops? Yes, they do. And so does the vault. The vault has private trustee training workshops for trustees because we're in multiple different environments that involve trusteeship. So you're managing assets in many different environments. And it's a continuing education program. It's to prepare you to go into other trustee training environments and do business with other trustees, because people in trust deal with people in trust. So, a lot of people, they come at the vault and they ask questions about how come we're not overly selling the package of trustee training. They want to ask questions about how much trustee training costs. Ladies and gentlemen, we get millionaires that listen to our podcast and they contact us all the time. It's not the same for everybody. And you have to be able to accept that. This isn't the public. Everything's not cookie cutter. Everything's not for sale. Some things are focused on achieving a result and actually achieving it. Somebody says speak on a low profit, limited life. We're not talking about that. So, once again, feel free to type into the chat questions that are related to your name trust, because this is a big question. A lot of people say, "Oh, Trust Christian, I got control of my birth certificate." You know how many people reach out to us say, "I got in control of my birth certificate. I got my birth certificate authenticated," and you got your birth certificate authenticated. Well, the birth certificate is a trust. You think we haven't heard this? My birth certificate is a trust. It was created from the government. My mom, she was the informant. It says it on the birth certificate. She's the grantor, right? Not at all. So, somebody says, "Hey, Trust Christian, the government, they created a trust off the birth certificate." Somebody came on the line the other day as a consultation, said, "Well, it's cool to know that the government values me and thinks that I'm worth something." No, they don't. Because if they did, they wouldn't give you anything for free. The reason why they are giving you something for free is because they think that you're not worth anything. You can't make something from yourself. They're already assuming that your family was trash, that they didn't have any education to create a trust system to be able to fund your family for generations to come. So in turn, the government did that. They did that for welfare purposes. This is a good question. Someone said, they typed in the chat, said, "Wait, I missed the first part of the stream. Is my name trust a good thing or a bad thing?" It's a bad thing. It's a bad thing, meaning that because it's remember the saying, "Trust Christian, own nothing, control everything." When you start, if you're in the private sector, you're not exposing your name, period. When you're in the private sector, you're not looking to have your name on things, because that's how people can sue you. If your name is on a trust, or if your name is the trust, people know who they suing then. But when you put yourself in a position where you're not the name, your name trust, hey, somebody might not sue you directly. They might not sue the trust either. If the trust is doing business with them. Why? Because they don't know what position you're in other than just being a trustee. So it's advantages to not having it as that, but as you can see as well, sometime maybe a generation or two down, when you trained a generation or so to know that, okay, the previous generation has created something, so now their name is worth something. Now their name is worth putting out there, because people know the previous ancestor of that particular trust. They know that, okay, J.D. Rockefeller created the trust. People know, okay, Amshire Rothschilds created the Rothschilds trust. They know what Kennedy created the Kennedy trust. They know that Bill and Melinda Gates created their trust. So they know that Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton created their trust. So when the lower level, not lower level, but the descendants of the Clinton trust, it looks a little different. But because the Clintons have their name on these entities, people come after them all the time because their name is on it. So that's why it's a strategic position to not have your name on it. And I mean, we could go there. Don't think we're not going to go there. It's about to get real deep, because I know there's quite a few people that are listening that come from a lot of schools of thought. And we come from these schools of thought. So we speaking from experience. Ain't like we didn't have the gurus that's still on the internet trying to tell you the government owes you something, that the government created a trust for you, and all this other stuff. Oh, if you do the UCC, you're creating UCC contract trust. Did you not hear that? You don't think we heard that? We're going to go there. Oh, the UCC contract trust Christian. And we're going to go back to a few simple questions. See, this is what you can ask the gurus that want to get your money from you, because that's what they're doing. They're getting money from people. Time and energy. Time and energy is money. Even if they didn't get your money. Just like the one person reached out, "Oh man, Trust Christian, you accepting Federal Reserve notes." What are you accepting? Bullshit? They still took your time. They still took your money. I mean, still took your time and your energy. They took your attention. How much is your attention worth? The vault's information is worth something. The vault's energy is worth something. To get on the phone with the vault's time is worth something. But what do? The vault has always got to come up with a new way to be better. So We opened up the line. Y'all can feel free to call into the number. It's in the chat right now. You don't have to type your questions into the chat. You can come in. The number is in the chat. 443-296-2465. You can type into you can call the number. It's only available during the showtime. You can call into the show right now and we can talk about it. Because and for the people, they're gonna hear the BS that people have been sold. It's trash. It's not to help people make money. Your name trust is to enable you to make money efficiently, privately, to move on with your life, not to be subject to a guru or some fringe group information. The number's in the chat. Feel free to call in. Somebody said, and feel free to keep typing into the chat. It's perfectly fine. It's no big deal. We'll read them at the time. Is it possible for secure one's name and labor from capitis dominio and the public with trust and other components? Once again, if you're trying to secure what you call your name, once again, we don't know why the gurus don't tell you how to get a Black's Law Dictionary. When you get in trustee training, you have to have a Black's Law Dictionary when you get in trustee training. That's how good our program is. You got to have a Black's Law Dictionary. We're not particular on which one. We definitely don't recommend you get the 11th edition, though. We don't recommend you get the 10th edition. But, some of the older editions, yes. Somebody says, how do I control my labor? Do y'all want to hear the truth? That you got to stop working jobs with the social? You want to hear that? Or are you really going to say, you know what? I actually am going to move into a position where I own nothing, but I control my time. I control the income. I control the liability. I minimize my liability by being in the correct position. I'm in trust, Christian, but my name's not on it. As far as the entity itself, that's perfectly fine. You're moving in the right direction. So then, whose labor is being captured then? It's not your labor. It's the trust labor. Do you see the difference? But the gurus on the public side, they're going to tell you, oh, you gotta get control of your name. You got to get control of your labor. If you own it, you're liable. If you own it. So that's why at the vote we say trust Christian, own nothing, control everything. You don't need to own anything. You don't need to own your name. You don't even need to own your labor. You have to put yourself in a position where you can control it. Guys, this is crazy. Everyone have been listening to what's going on. I just paid $300 for a guy to file my UCC and he put my name trust on a statement. Exactly. So then let's get into that UCC stuff. Okay, so not only that, who's the creditor? Oh, it's my name in lowercase. Y'all really think the government that damn dumb? Oh man, the capital names is the business name, and my lowercase name, that's the natural name. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, have you seen the government in upper and lowercase? No, trust Christian, it's in capital case because it's an artificial entity. It's a dead entity. Exactly. You're communicating with a dead entity. And then you're trying to tell the dead entity that a living being owns a dead entity. Sounds like slavery. It sounds like you're in control of, you're in ownership, once again, of a dead entity, which means you're liable now. Why do you think they're coming after you? Because you own it. Because you own the corporation. You own the dead name. You own the corpus. You own all of that. Think about what somebody just typed in the chat. They paid $300. You could have got a $150 consultation and moved on with your life and said, okay, somebody just told me I got to either move in trust or I got to give up the fringe group mentality of something for nothing. Bottom line. See, because when you come to the vote, we going to tell you, UCC, for your name trust, did it put any money in your pocket? No, but it definitely just took some out. Exactly. Why didn't the UCC put money in your pocket? Well, trust Christian, it's not for that. Money's not real, and we're trying to discharge that. Ladies and gentlemen, don't bring any of that over here at the vault. To be completely straight with you, the vault is focused on helping families move forward in the correct position as a family unit. Oh man, Trust Christian, I don't want to put my children into the system. I don't want my children to have a social security number. I want them to avoid all of that stuff, Trust Christian. You can. So then how do I do that? If you're in trusteeship, you still don't have your name on it. The children don't have their name in the trust. It could be whatever the trust is called. They're just beneficiaries or they're protected by the document itself. That's how you go private. But somebody want to type into the emails. Oh, we don't even remember the stupid stuff. We don't even remember. It's just not even worth remembering. Somebody said, some people truly don't get it. Energy and time is everything. Very, very important. Energy and time is definitely everything. And we get these questions all the time coming through about the UCC contract trust. These guys tell you that, oh, you think we don't know these people on their channels? They still out here. They 5-10 years deep in the game selling you UCC contract trust information. Huh, they're not millionaires. They're not teaching you how to be a millionaire. They're not showing you the ropes on business. Trust Christian in the Vault, we're focused on business. You gotta eat. Clean air's not free, let alone good food. We know this at the Vault. We're not telling you money is not fake. Go without money for a while and see if you're able to live in a rent-free house or to get food for free. We're talking about healthy food too. To get clean water. You're not discharging that. But the gurus are still selling discharge packets over the internet for your name trust. Well, look, all you gotta do is buy this UCC packet and get in the UCC contract now. And what you gonna do? Discharge everything? Ladies and gentlemen, sure, we've seen these idiots talk about this for years now. None of them have any type of public workshops. They don't even have private workshops because they're not in the public. They're sitting behind some damn TV screen trying to act like they're your guru because they've read more books or they've read the Black's Law Dictionary longer than you have, okay? Look, and because they want to wear something on their head, because they don't want to be called a citizen, whatever. Everybody says, I don't want to be called a citizen, so you want to have your name trust be your asset protection for your body. Look, no problem. Just be very aware. When you give up allegiance, as they say, dealing with these people, they take something too. So your name trust gives you protection, be it the government. If we talking about the government trust, right? The government trust comes with entitlements. One of them is protection from their military. What military do you have in your name trust outside of them? How many people are able to put? Do you have multiple people in a trust? Because a trust can be a contract for a community. There are quite a few communities that operate off a contract. The United States operates off a contract. We're already operating in your name trust, right? Right. Someone said, how do I join the academy? Just feel free to reach out, Christian@trustchristian.com. Christian@trustchristian.com. I love the chat today. The women are going hard in the chat. They revealed their names. They out here revealing their names. They over here having a good laugh right now, talking about somebody was talking about how they were thinking about discharges and stuff. It's kind of funny to hear that right now. Y'all, once again, y'all can look into the description of the episode and see the number, and y'all can feel free to call in to the episode, and we'll definitely pick you up and go forward and kind of go over some stuff with you. Also, feel free to type into the chat. Feel free to call in. The numbers actually in the description. Appreciate everybody that knows other trustees that have reached out and things of that nature. But once again, once again, we hear the fringe group information of you got these guys that are trying to tell you, oh, if you get into your name trust, then you could get a house. Ladies and gentlemen, let go of this entitlement mentality like the government's supposed to give you a free house because you were born here. And guess what? When they give you that free house, oh, you best believe you're going to keep that yard clean. Oh, you bet. United States people don't know how good they got it, man. Think about it. Y'all don't even have mortgages that are 50 years old. Y'all don't even have mortgages that are 75 and 100 years old. Why would you want a mortgage that's 50 years old, that's 75 years old? You don't think that happens in the world? It does. Your name trust, that will enable that. Your name trust allows you to get private health care, not socialized medicine. And then you wonder why a group of people are saying, well, I don't want to take a vaccination shot, Trust Christian, because I don't want to be a part of that. Well, do you think your name trust from the government that you're trying to be a trustee over is going to help? Do you think you taking control of the UCC contract trust, or do you think you being in a position of that is going to help you get rid of that? Ladies and gentlemen, we already know most people ain't educated to do that. What you think, we stupid? We already know that. Just because you go into some position where you're in a UCC contract trust, oh, I'm not going to have to deal with the vaccination mandatory shot if that's the case. If I have to go back to work. You're using the social, right? Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, we don't want any trustees to type into the chat right now that are listening. But trustees know. We let our trustees know. We ask them this question all the time. Do you have a social security number? Trustees know that they don't. They own nothing, control everything. They don't use possessive terms, that they own a social security number. They don't use possessive terms, that they have a name. So when the police ask you for your name, you know what they're asking now. They're asking, what's the business entity we can discharge on, that we can create a charge on? Not discharge on, but create a charge on. But then you got these fringe groups. Well, they got these quotas. This should be illegal, and this shouldn't be happening. Look, we can hear all of that all you want, but don't pay that citation and see what happens to the name. It's going to have encumbrances on it. But this is where the gurus fail you. So now they told you not to pay the bill, and you're sitting behind bars while the gurus living their life. Because they told you, oh, you should be able to discharge that ticket. You're supposed to be able to discharge this and discharge that. If you're still talking about discharge in 2021, you're done. There is no discharge. I'm sorry to tell you that. Greetings, greetings, greetings. You tuned in to the vault. Who am I speaking with?
This is Daryl Teasley.
What's going on, Daryl? How you doing today?
Oh, man, I'm great. How about yourself?
I'm doing excellent. Thanks for calling in, man. I guess this episode's got you wanting to talk about it, huh?
Oh, my goodness. I've been listening to you for a while, and I pulled away from YouTube in its entirety, and now I'm back. And, man, the knowledge that you spit, man, is unbelievable. So I'm ready to get started with you guys any which way I can.
That's perfect, man. Just feel free to reach out, Christian@trustchristian.com. Through email, through the formal process, and then we'll move forward from there, whether it's a consultation and then moving into the training. But our whole goal is to make sure that you and your family are in a position of trusteeship. You're not going to own a trust. It's not going to be in your name. Once again, we don't encourage trustees to have their name involved in the first generation. It's just, if you were that good, you would already did it. We want to make sure that you have a smooth, easy transition into the private, not where you're sitting in front of bankers or you're sitting in front of other people and you're having to expose that you're in trust. You don't want to expose your in trust. You want to be a trustee. There's a difference. Because we train you to be a trustee for any trust, whether it's a public trust or a private trust. Because there's certain things you can do, and then there's a few things that you can't do. And that's what trustee training is to train you to be a trustee of a public trust and a private trust. So it's not just to give you the fringe group of, we're trying to make sure you can discharge your house. That's not going to happen. You're not yet, even in trustee training, you're not going to get in and we're going to train you on how to get rid of your mortgage, man. It is what it is. Like, it don't work that way, So, no, definitely appreciate you, man, for reaching out. Like I say, Christian at Trust Christian, obviously this is just an episode and wanting to really kind of go over that with people because we get this conversation all the time about their name. Can you have your last name on a trust? Is it wise to have your last name on a trust? Is it wise to have, even dealing with the public side, when you say, okay, the government, or say you're in the public and you got the name, your name, quote unquote, Daryl, is a trust. It's like, should I operate in that? No. Why? Because I can sue you. I'm going to sue that
Mm,
trust. Who's the trustee? You.
mm,
You know what I mean? Like, it's
yeah,
not. It don't work that way. It does. It's not. It's not wise to do that. Why? You're exposing what we call a private position. You're private now, right? Right. We don't do our names on stuff.
that's it. Got you. Okay. I
And
appreciate it.
yeah, definitely, man. Appreciate you for reaching out to the episode, man, and tuning in live. Definitely look forward to it. Look forward to connecting with you, man. So, did you have any other questions or anything?
No, you answered everything. I listened to, when you have Cornell on as well, and I just,
Mm-hmm.
man, I've been wanting to get involved with you guys. So, like you said, I mean, I'll email you my
Mm-hmm.
information. I don't know if that can be text to me or not. That way, everything I can,
You
you
was
know.
listening live, so I'll just make sure that it's in the chat, and you can go
Okay.
back and see it in the chat, and just go ahead and message us over. It's in the chat now, so just feel free to go, into the chat. You'll see the vault, the one comment that we made, and just feel free to reach out, Christian at trustchristian.com, and we'll move forward from there, man. Look forward to working with you in 2021.
Oh man, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Looking forward. What about this market crash?
Uh, You're funny as heck. What's crazy is we actually just saw Bitcoin steal some more wealth from people actually yesterday. So, you know, it's we don't really see a crash other than people that are in Bitcoin losing their shirts
Hmm.
right now. I mean, the market is rallied heavily right now. Really excited about the market. And everybody should be excited about their futures. Some people did take a step back in 2020. Businesses got restructured. But that's the business that we're in. When you're in trust, you do restructuring. So you're going
Hmm.
to see quite a few companies that are not going to employ. They're not going to bring back as many employees, and they're going to do their best to utilize the technology that's enabled them to make money throughout this process. And then if they have to bring in a few employees, they will. But they'll do their best to keep focusing on that technology that enabled them not to go under or file bankruptcy or whatever it is. And then you're going to see companies throughout the next few years, they're still going to be filing for bankruptcy, but that's just once again a restructuring. That's not they're going out of business. Sears is still around, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they're not like they,
Yeah.
they got actually auto centers still in the United States. Like we want to say that Heckinger or Macy's is still around. These places are still around. They're not under yet. They just do a restructuring. So the market is great
Yeah.
right now, man. The market is really, really good. You just got to be in the right place at the right time, and obviously, the vault is focused on being at the right place at the right time. So yeah, and then I know you talked about Cornell with the trading, and you've heard his episodes. We're actually gonna we're already 17 days into the month of January. So yeah, I was just sitting there with him the other day, and I was just like, he was like, yeah, man, a bunch of people already requesting this year to go ahead and get into the market. So that's fine. People are wanting to get into the market with the trading, and move forward with the trading. So and he also has a private community of people that are working together, or at least communicating. Especially when you get into this information, especially in
Mhm.
trust, you want to be able to communicate with people that are actually in trust. Once again, people in trust deal with people in trust. People that are in trading deal with people that are in trading. It's a relative thing. So it's I know he's gonna do another workshop, another online workshop. We're gonna get some more in-person workshops going on again this year. Obviously the COVID thing kind of just made us say we're not gonna put anybody in a position where they feel compromised. It wasn't on us because we had a workshop actually last year in March, when right before it got heavy. So we like pushing the envelope, but we also just disrespectful in some respects. We don't really care to have anybody blame why nothing went their way because of us. So, and we can't stop that, but we can avoid it. So, but yeah, we're definitely going to do some in-person workshops, and we're talking about in first quarter. We're going to knock out, March or April with a private trustee training workshop, because the trainings are for the trustees. We do trainings for our trustees. When you talk about acquiring real estate and trust and things like that, when you talk about acquiring any type of property or business, or any of that in trust. That's what the trustee training is all about. It's all about transferring of assets. It's all about asset acquisition, and doing it from a position where, once again, own nothing, control everything, where you're not in that position. And then obviously putting your, the subtleties of it, you not having your name on it. You know what I mean? It's not going to aid you by you having your name on it. If you're not, your
Mm-hmm.
last name's not Trump. Your last name's not
Yeah.
Clinton. Your last name's not Kennedy. It's not going to help you going into the bank saying, hey, I got a trust and, I'm just a trustee. Hint, hint, wink, wink. But
Yeah.
your name's on it, though. So now,
Yeah.
well, who created this? Your dad? Your grandmother? Whoever created that. That those are the things that sometimes you're going to encounter when you're out here and about doing business. So we just address those things in a very focused, direct, cogent manner, towards you. So look forward to hearing from you, man.
I appreciate it, man. I appreciate everything you've been doing. So yeah, I'm ready. So definitely be in touch.
Yeah, this week, man. Reach out. We'll hear from you.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate you.
Thank
Thank you.
you. Yeah.
Peace.
Take care.
Appreciate you for tuning in live, Daryl. Listening to replay as well. Feel free to call in. The number's in the description. It's just appreciate the Bronx for tuning in live, listening to replay. Memphis, Tennessee for tuning in live, listening to replay. Always appreciate everybody for tuning in live, listening to replay wherever you're listening live or tuning in replay from. We got people that listen from all around the world, and y'all know that because we always ask them to type into the chat where they listening from. It people listening from all around the world. It's not even just Americans or people that live in the States. When it's the beautiful part about what we talk about the vault, your name trust applies to international dealings just as much as national dealings. When you're traveling around the world, if you want to maintain certain levels of privacy, ladies and gentlemen, obviously having your name on a trust might not be the most wisest thing to do. You operate. It's not to say that you don't get control. Y'all hear us now. Don't let the gurus take, just Chris don't know what the hell he's talking about. We're not saying you don't get in control of an asset, such as a name. We're saying you don't own it. We're saying that you don't use it. Well, it has value on a trust, Christian. At the same time, it puts you in a compromising position where they know it's yours because your name's on it. So clearly, you're not in a private position. And that's what the whole goal of the Trustee Training Program is about. The Vault Trustee Training Program is about. It's about privacy. It's about maintaining that privacy. It's about maintaining and growing your family assets from one generation to the next. Bottom line. So we've had consultations already this year. Definitely thankful for having those consultations already this year. And people are moving forward already this year. And that's how it happens. 17 days into it, people are already saying, I need to make sure my family's good this year. It can't be the same as 2020 where we feel like we left behind. Appreciate Tulsa, Oklahoma for tuning in live, listening to replay. Shout out to Tulsa, Oklahoma. Appreciate Tulsa. Old school. What they call that? The Black Wall Street was in Tulsa, Oklahoma. So once again, just really wanted to do this episode. It doesn't need to be long-winded. Obviously, if you get in trustee training, you're going to hear a lot more in-depth. You might hear a little bit more catered towards your position. Your name trust is this is one of those episodes. If you got it in your name, you're probably not private. What about the UCC trust contract? Ladies and gentlemen, we know most people aren't. Shout out to the Greenwood district of Tulsa, Oklahoma. And shout out to Antioch, California. Most people don't know where that is, but Antioch's out there. Definitely have been to Antioch before. So shout out to Antioch, California. Most people probably don't even know how to say that in the chat, but it's funny. Antioch, California is tuning in live, listening to replay. Greenwood, Tulsa, Oklahoma. Tuning in live, listening to replay. But once again, this is an episode catered towards you knowing that. Think about it. It'd be different if it was like people contacted us and they were like, yeah, it's 4 or 5 of us, 6 of us, 10 of us, 20 of us, and we got a few of our names on the trust, and we're operating as a community. So you got a little bit more flexibility. So when people go do business on behalf of that trust, that community trust, it's just names. It's like any other name now for an entity. It's not personal. It's business. because it's a community-based entity. Bottom line, we're talking about the business entities that make money too. We're not talking about the nonprofits. We're not talking about the foundations. We're talking about actual trust, ladies and gentlemen. So we do want to be very clear that there are some cases where your family legacy can be carried on. Usually that's going to be carried on in the charitable position, in the private charitable position. Why? Because it's non-taxable. Whereas you get people contacting us, are trust non-taxable? How? It's generating wealth. It's growing money. How? How's it going to be non-taxable? Well, I'm going to use the WA bin. Y'all think we don't hear this dumb stuff? We're going to use the WA bin. No, you're not. You're not. They're not using that properly because they'll try to say it's foreign and then they still don't know how to deal with it. And once again, we always go back to basic questions like who created the trust? What jurisdiction was it created in? Excuse us. So your name trust has to align with jurisdiction. It has to align with the law. And these are the things that you learn when you come through trustee training. Your name trust is about you understand to separate assets. Why would you want your name on a trust? Why would the gurus tell you to put your name on a trust? Why wouldn't they have told, we don't want to say the lady's name wrong in the chat, but there was a young lady that typed into the chat and she said that somebody told her to put her name and control her name in a particular situation. Why wouldn't they make a business own the name? Businesses own businesses. People can't own businesses, ladies and gentlemen. I know that that's counter to your thought process, but once again, if you own something, you ready for that? You're going to be taxed on it. If you own something, you're liable for it. So why wouldn't the guru that made you spend $300 for your UCC contract, why wouldn't they go put a trust outside of your name, the community trust that this goofball is selling you? Why wouldn't they have owned your name? Because they understand what slavery is. And they're not trying to participate in it if they own your name. Bottom line. So, do you own your name? Do you own nothing, control everything? Do you own your name or not own your name and just control it as a trustee? Come on now, ladies and gentlemen. We do this episode for the people that reach out via consultations. We do this episode for the trustees because we understand that these are small little questions that come up all the time. Trust Christian, I got my UCC stuff squared away. You know that has never stopped to this day after 5 years. People still Trust Christian, look, I got my UCC stuff squared away. What does that have to do with trusteeship? And then they be disappointed when they come to trustee training because they find out that UCC has nothing to do with trusteeship because we train you to operate public and private trust. So how did your name trust help you out? How does that help you? It didn't. Well, Trust Christian, do I need to protect the name? Do you need to protect the name? Sure. There's not too many people in the world that have your same exact name. That's fair. At the same time, who's going to copyright and trademark that image and logo? Who's going to do that? Is it going to be you, who you still think you can go in and own these things, these properties, which makes you liable? Or does the family estate own it? Does the family trust own it? Does the family foundation own it? Does the private trust own it? Does the private community own it? Most of the time, most people are not answering yes to that question. There are advantages and disadvantages. It's up to you. And we could sit here and have fun and crack jokes about these self-proclaimed gurus over the internet all the time, but in all actuality, these guys are jokes. And they're not even a funny joke. They're a horrible joke because somebody just typed into the chat and said that they lost money by somebody setting them up in trusteeship or setting them up with a contract, and they're still owning it, which means you're still liable. Did you go back and talk to the guru? Go back and talk to the Fringe group leader and say, well, if my name is on something and I own it, that means I'm liable, right? Well, you are, but you're not. Check for the word but. Make sure that they don't say but. Well, you put your name on it, but we utilizing this law. We not utilizing that. Right, because they don't know trusteeship. If you own it, you're liable. It's not a different. It's a principle. It's like the law of gravity. It ain't changing for me or you. But they think that they could change the laws because they think that they're different. Hold on. Do you know where English law came from? Yeah, because you're writing in it. That's a system. English law? What about the jurisdiction a trust is in? Well, it was created in the United States, but I'm going to take it out of the United States. You know how many people come to us and say, I'm going to take the public trust and pull it into the private? Okay, the vote is very graphic, ladies and gentlemen, so just be aware. We could go there with you all. That's not going to happen, though. You're not going to take the public trust and pull it into the private. Let these idiots tell you that. And they're selling you trash. Oh, Trust Christian, you could take the trust from the public and pull it into the private. Okay, dummy, we already know that that's not true. Why? Because public and private don't mix. You can't take something from the public and pull it into private, especially depending on who created it. You didn't create that public entity to even be in a position of control to move it. But let these broke ass gurus that sit on the internet tell you, oh, well, you could take the entity from the public because it's your name and then pull it into the private. All they're doing is selling you what someone just got sold in the chat. Trash. Something that's not going to put no money in their pocket in 2021. We're talking about increasing your efficiency. See, you can do more by doing less. If you were in control of more money, you will be able to do more. But when you're in the incorrect position, you're losing money, you're losing time, you're losing energy based off of lack of knowledge. There is an education disparity based off of money. But most of these guys that are in the fringe groups, that are wearing these things on their head, that are wearing all these weird clothing, they're telling you to come to a temple. They're telling you you're going to be protected. But in all actuality, how they living their life? How you going to live your life? Being up under them? It's business, not personal. Your name trust? Who owns it? Most people can't say that they don't own it. That's another thing. Did the fringe group leaders, did they tell you all how not to own the trust? Did they tell y'all that? Did they tell you that if you own it, you're liable? Did they tell you that you most likely should not be the trustee and the beneficiary? Did they tell you that? Did they train you in trusteeship? No. They just want to sit on the internet and talk smack. Because they're going up against guys like Trust Christian in the Vault. And we put these guys out of business. They're not in the rooms we're in. They're not sitting in trustees meetings with senior trustees that are managing millions and billions plus. And none of them are in a position where they own the assets. They're not talking about owning their name. Why? Because they don't do business in their name. But the gurus, they don't know how to get around the public wall that they're in front of. Why? Because they haven't been trained. See, Trust Christian in the Vault, we've been trained in what we're talking about. It's proprietary information. People want to reach out to the Vault and say, well, I don't know if I should have to pay for something. Good. Go back to public school. Wasn't that free? Isn't that your education base? Public school? This is private school. There's no handouts here. There's no free lunches here. Be prepared to pay. To play. You think it's fair for Donald Trump to get on stage and say, well, I don't have any liability on my personal name? You think he didn't have to pay? You think he's not paying thousands or millions of dollars to not say that? But you think that you should get it for free? It don't work that way, ladies and gentlemen. It don't work that way. UCC ain't going to put you in a position to say what Donald's saying. But guess what? Trust Christian in the vault. Oh, we for sure going to make sure that you in that position. For sure. Because what? He's the president of the United States. He showed you it was legal. You want us to keep going through the rest of the presidential candidates that have gone throughout history to say, hey, we got to put together a tax return real quick to show them that we actually are paying taxes. Right. You want to say it again? They have to put together a tax return. This man went through 4 years and never shown a tax return, but he's the manager of a multi-billion-dollar business. Your name trust, right? Right. No UCC. No fringe group. No discharge. Straight business. That's what we do at the vault. Business. Appreciate everybody for tuning in live, listening to replay. An hour goes by quick. Appreciate everybody that tuned in live, that actually said something in the chat, that contacted us back in the replay and reached out. Christian@trustchristian.com. Once again, the email is Christian@trustchristian.com. Appreciate everybody for tuning in live, listening to replay. This is probably one of the biggest hurdles for trustees to get over, is get rid of the possessive. Either saying that they have a company, my business, my trust, your name trust. All of those things put you in a ownership position, and ownership incurs liability, tax, and lawsuit. So we always make it a point to talk to trustees in a manner in which they're very clear that you don't own anything and that you control it as a trustee. So appreciate everybody for tuning in live, listening to replay. Somebody said, would not there be a lot of nefarious actions taken by competitors? Always. These environments, they foster that. So that's why we talk to trustees about not putting your name on it, because when somebody sees that you have your name on a trust, they're going to think that, and we have word from even the 3-letter boys that they actually think you're trying to hide something. When you talk about your name trust, they think you're trying to hide something. So why would you put yourself in a position where you're going to be able to let people know that this is the position you're in? Not that this is the position a trust is in, the position that you're in to grow family assets in the family estate. But people don't think about it like that. So it can come off that way. And a lot of people do utilize it for those reasons. So that's why it's just very, very important not to tie yourself to things where people can make bad assumptions. Just because you have your name on something, people make bad assumptions nowadays. They think that you own it. Why? Because people in the public only know public stuff. So the fact that you have your name on a trust, they just think that you own it. That's all. And that's not good. Because if you don't want them to know that, that's what they're going to assume. That's what they do in the public side. They use color of law. They assume. Before they say, the law, they say they're supposed to, they're supposed to give you due process and not judge you. You're innocent until guilty. You all know that that's not true. You're innocent until you're guilty, right? You already know that that's not true. So your name trust doesn't enable you to have a due process if your name's on it, because they automatically have evidence, incriminating evidence. You got your name on here. Who's the grantor? Right. Appreciate everybody for tuning in live, listening to replay. Y'all can feel free to type into the chat real quick, or even feel free to call in. The number's in the description. If you call in, just feel free to minimize your background noise. But we'll stay on for a few more minutes if we got a caller that calls in. But other than that, ladies and gentlemen, this is just one of those episodes where we get a lot of the people coming from these fringe groups. They want to go to these freedom groups. They think that these groups are going to help them become free. You ain't free if you ain't got no money. To be completely honest with you, you ain't free if you ain't got no money. How you going to be free? You don't got no money. Who you going to get money from? The government? The government giving you money? In your name trust? We know people that got direct deposits to their name trust, and it's a wrap. They're tied to the government now. Now, if you want to maintain your privacy, you don't use your name trust to collect government funds. appreciate it. Someone says, trustee is the ideas, the beneficiary part is through the enjoyment of creating a life project. Quite a bit, quite a bit. You have quite a bit of beneficiaries that enjoy the projects, but a lot of people listen to the vault and they don't really want to hear the hard stories the hard, not hard, but hard stories of you having to make the sacrifice as a trustee. Once again, maybe your name's not on the initial trust as a trustee. So you got to deal with those things in life as a trustee. You have to be willing to make that sacrifice so the next couple generations can eat. We just said it's interesting to see that so many people right now are playing with the fact that they're like think about your ancestors, ladies and gentlemen. If you're listening to this, you had ancestors that enable you to get here. Are you going to enable generations from now to be in a better position than you are? And we see so many people they don't even care. They just gonna keep putting their family in poverty. They gonna keep putting their family in your name trust. Instead of saying, you know what, we gotta do this the proper way. There's a proper way, and then there's an improper way. We already know what the improper way is. It's public. Family is private. Appreciate everybody for tuning in live, listening to replay. Feel free to reach out, Christian at Trust Christian, whether that's for trustee training or consultation. Feel free. We're going to do our Tuesday episode this week at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Feel free to reach out. Just click on the subscription or, I think it's a subscription. Click on the subscription so you guys can get the notification. Somebody said I'm gonna start a Fringe that lures people in, but instead, right at the end, it's a referral to the vault. And it's crazy that you got to come at people this way because, but it's not. It may not even be to your advantage or their advantage because remember, they have to have the worker mentality of they are going to start a business. One, as a trustee, you want to be thinking entrepreneurship because when you're in trusteeship, you have to grow assets. So sometimes, a lot of times, when people convince people to, come over to the vault or whatever, they're blown away that they have to do some work, that they have to learn. They got to read some books. They gotta get out of their comfort zone and go into different environments where other trustees are. People are weirded out by that type of stuff. So we're not discouraging it, but we're just letting you know. Just be very aware. You just want to be able to give it to them straight. Like, this is what we're about. Own nothing, control everything. We're about the truth. We're not about debt. We're about assets. We're not about liabilities. And when we talk about even debt, we know what debt can be: a good asset, or it can be we know debt can be good or it can be bad. We're aware of that as trustees. It's business. We're not afraid of bankruptcy as a trustee. That's just life. Sometimes your ideas don't go as planned, whether it's a trustee or owner or anything. Ideas don't always go to plan. I don't understand how public school condition people to make them think bankruptcy is not real when all your politicians, a lot of them have filed bankruptcy for a business before. But people get discouraged. Somebody said it's hard to be thoughtful when the kids burn you. You don't know what kids they're talking about, but at the end of the day, y'all go ahead and reach out and talk to these gurus that want to sit on the internet and tell you to go ahead and put your UCC contract in place and it's gonna protect you. Ladies and gentlemen, they're not gonna help get you protected. Why? Because it's not that you have to be armed with the knowledge, ladies and gentlemen. You got to be armed in the right position. You got to be armed in the right position. You got to be sitting in the correct position so you can start the race and move forward in the race properly. But most people, they're not starting in the race. They're starting in the opposite direction of the race. They're going against the way the race is meant to be run properly. That's it. Somebody said, is bankruptcy irresponsible? Not in all cases. Sometimes it's not. It's a reorganization, ladies and gentlemen. When you guys look at it on the public side, it's called a reorganization. This is what we go over in trustee training. Bankruptcy is not an evil thing. Bankruptcy sometimes can be looked at as a reorganization. A lot of companies do that. We point out to you all the time that there are companies in the public that do that all the time. They've been doing it for years. There are companies that went into bankruptcy, came out of bankruptcy, went back into bankruptcy, came out of bankruptcy, and people got jobs there. They're helping people feed their family. So how is it irresponsible if people are still feeding their family on the worker level, but the company people at the top, you know, they're doing a restructuring and things of that nature. And that's what we understand. That's the difference between us and other organizations at the vault. So we appreciate everybody for tuning in live, listening, replay. Appreciate all the feedback, all the content, all the questions, and feel free to reach out. We look forward to hearing from y'all. Peace.